Hey guys, this is Viper Strike here, and this is actually episode number 6. So, right here, and hello guys. Hello there, Dangerous Brian and Goblin Zeus. Good to see you. So, right now, we're in Northeast Philadelphia, which is Kilo Papa Nacho S Echo, and we're right outside the city of Philadelphia. And you can see the outer city of Philadelphia. So today, this one's going to be a very interesting destination. We're not just going to anywhere in the United States in the East Coast. We're heading to the Big Apple, New York City, which is right here on our slideshow. I mean, not on a slideshow, I meant my little nav map. We are actually heading to New York City. This is the flight plan. Let me get rid of some of that clutter. So this is kind of what our flight plan looks like. So we'll be heading first to Allentown, Pennsylvania, to Lehigh Valley Airport, into Lehigh Valley International, which is the main hub of the region. Then we will actually head all the way down to Long Island, and we will be visiting JFK International on the right next to Queens and Brooklyn. And before we get there, we will be visiting Brooklyn Field, Floyd Bennett Field, right next to Coney Island. And then for the last trip, we will take the ultralights, and we'll fly through most of the boroughs, including Queens, Brooklyn, and Manhattan. Manhattan and the Bronx. We'll be visiting all of the boroughs of New York City. I think this should be a really fun... Hello, Zeus. New York City, watch your frame rates. Yes, but that's why I usually X out of the sim every time, just to make sure. But yeah, we're going to New York City, boys. Because there are 2 teams in New York we have to be visiting. The Yankees and the Mets. I will see up where I can fly. My computer's not very efficient in New York. Here's the thing though, Goblin Zeus. If you have to, don't be afraid to change servers. Even if I don't see you, as long as your frames run well, that's all that really matters. So I'm just telling you not to worry about that sort of thing. So if you're wondering what I'm going to be taking to flying today, I'm not going to take just a normal Cessna. I'm actually going to take something a bit more interesting and something more vintage. And I'm talking about the recently released DC Designs Stearman Model 17. This classic biplane was originally designed by the Stearman Company in the 1930s. This was originally used as an aviation trainer in the Second War, in which, after the war was over, many of them were used as acrobatic planes and for wing walking exercises. These are still very popular planes, and you'll see a lot of them still flying around to this day. It's a very beautiful plane. DC Designs knocked out of the park, and you can get this amazing plane for $15 US dollars or 11 euros, which is extremely cheap. I mean, that's kind of a bargain for what you get. Admiral Ted says, "Good luck with the stream, Viper. You haven't been flying recently." And had a little accident. Oh no. Well, it's good to see you, Ted. Thanks for coming by. You're always welcome to join. You were flying the Spitfire with Beamit, and she was showing the DC-6. Yeah, speaking of the DC-6, that is a plane that I was not expected to be this cheap. It's like $54 may sound like a lot, but when you consider you've seen PMDG's other products for X-Plane, which cost like around $100, that's kind of a bargain, if you ask me. I'm hoping to get the DC-6 at some point, their Goblin Zeus, but for me, I'm probably going to wait until Asobo officially releases their JU-52, and I'll probably fly that plane a lot. That would be my vintage airline fix. So we can get to the cockpit. It's a fabulously simple little plane. It's very simple. You can see all the gauges and such. Now, if I go to the cockpit, I can do the checklist. So before I start the engine, the canopy's open, but there is no canopy. turn off the ignition switch, and then the parking brake. Now the parking brake is actually down over here. The park. I believe the parking brake's on. Now I gotta start the engine cold. Now I have to turn on the battery. Check. Dangerous Brian, that's a good looking plane, Viper. Yep, I love the Stearman. It's quickly grown to be one of my favorite planes. I mean, you can't go wrong with a vintage biplane. Dangerous Brian. It's such a fun aircraft to do. Kozaki Flyer says J-52 in the Alps. You know what? I kind of agree. Maybe one of my fight plans is I do the famous mission done in World War II where they had to rescue Benito Mussolini. Maybe someone could do that when the plane comes out. That would be really interesting. DC-6 is a bargain. Yeah, I think that's one of the other good things about the DC-6 is you get that flight engineer, and that really means you can, even a new player can actually learn how to fly it. Carburetor control, full code. Strobe light on. Mixture control, it is full rich. It is fully, I'm going to put the full rich, 100%. Turn the ignition magnetos to both. Now we need to press this half an inch, like this. Let's go to the steering. Yep. Go. Prime the engine a bit. Prime the engine a few times. Range and hold. Come on, Stearman. This beautiful plane. She's started. Keep her on 500 to 700. The oil temperature should be good. Gotta turn off the control lock. I'm not going to worry about the takeoff stuff. And turn it. Look at this. Absolutely beautiful plane. I was thinking more were Eagles Dare. Yep, I mean, those two would definitely be something I consider there, Kozaki. So the first leg should take us about 40 nautical miles. This shouldn't be a very long leg. There's HCBR. Is CJ4. There's HCBR. Yes, I know the movie with Richard Burton. Yep, I also remember there being an Iron Maiden song called Where Eagles Dare. That was one of my favorite ones too. So I gotta move this thing back to being in the runway. Okay, I'm cleared for the runway. So I'm gonna push it to around 2,000 RPM to the 20, which would be around 2,000 RPM. There's Carrot in the runway. So yes, guys, actually, if you guys did not know, I actually have my own Discord. So I actually will put the command up. Boom, I have my own Discord. So you guys can keep up with any updates for my stream. That's where I'm going to probably be posting for now on for my announcements. Kazaki's here. So any of you all that are more welcome, you can join up Discord. Just waiting for Zeus to get on the runway. Just waiting, and then let's go. That is great news, Viper. Yep, I have my own Discord. Now, recently I've been posting pictures of my previous episodes, so you can see them in the white ball for those who want to recap where I went. Yeah, the Navy Steerman's beautiful. Like, I like all the liveries for it. It's nice. And one of the other things I like about Steerman, it is a very stable plane. Very, very stable. It's very easy to fly this thing. And of course, you could also do this with the Steerman. Up. Eat your heart out, Thunderflies. So we need to go 341 degrees to northwest. So that's where we need to get going. Yep. So basically, a bit of my slideshow. This is actually the longest one I've done yet, and that's because most of it has to be taken about the Yankees, and the Yankees need a long, long history. Sidebar. You. Full screen. Okay. So the place we're visiting to first is Allentown, Pennsylvania. Allentown, Pennsylvania is actually the third most populous city in the state, only behind Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. And it is actually the largest city in the region known as the Lehigh Valley. And also, in addition to this as well, Allentown holds historical significance, as this is the location where the Liberty Bell was hidden from the British during the American Revolutionary War. The attractions in the area include the Iron Pigs baseball, which is the AAA affiliate of the Phillies, which is where one of the destinations of our waypoint. The Allentown Farmers Market is located there, and the Mack Trucks Museum. And basically, what Mack Trucks is they make a lot of these semi trucks and stuff to handle like cargo and such, like lorry trucks, basically. Some famous people in Allentown include Andre Reed, who's a Hall of Fame wide receiver for the Bills. Sarah Canals, believe it or not, is a centenarian, meaning she is someone that's lived over 100 years old. And in fact, she was the second oldest person to ever live. She lived like to 115, I believe, which is extremely old. And Ed McCaffrey, who was a star during his time as a Denver Broncos wide receiver. So that will be our destination. Now we're going to go to the meat of all this. So the first of the two teams we will be mentioning today are the New York Yankees. And this, as a baseball fan, this team does not need any introductions. They were established in 1901 and are the most successful professional sports team in the United States. The Yankees have won 27 World Series championships, 40 American League pennants, and 19 American League division titles. The only professional sports team in North America to have more championships are the Montreal Canadiens of the National Hockey League, which I think they won 2 more Stanley Cups than the Yankees won World Series. And we'll be visiting Montreal in a future episode. And to be in fact, the next closest team to win that many pennants in the American League was the Athletics, and they only had 15. So the Yanks won a crap ton of stuff. The Yankees currently play at the original... No, it is my own Discord, Dangerous Brian. It is my own Discord, believe it or not. It's an invite to my own Discord. It's my own invitation link, I believe. The Yankees currently play at Yankee Stadium 2. Oh, you can't join. You're already joined, Dangerous Brian. Remember, I invited you to the Discord, so I don't think... Well, they currently play at Yankee Stadium 2, which is the new one they just recently built in '09. They previously have played in the Polo Grounds and in the original Yankee Stadium, and their team colors are blue and white, and they wear their classic pinstripe uniforms. That is the look that defines the Yankees, are pinstripes. In fact, here's an interesting fun fact I found out about the Yankees. According to Forbes, the New York Yankees are the second most valuable sports team in the world, believe it or not, with a value of $5 billion US. Can you guys guess what number one is? Three, two, one. The Dallas Cowboys are the most valuable with $5.5 billion US. Which, to put in fact, the closest European club is Real Madrid, and they're like $4 billion. This is a very valuable franchise, and also it also helps they have a worldwide fan base as the sports most popular team by far. So the history of the Yankees actually goes all the way back to... I have a cap with NY on it. Yep. It's kind of hard to get away from the Yankees. They are that valuable of a team. And before we do this, this is one of the nice things about the Stearman. Look at this. There's never between you and the air. You can see the ground from here. It is absolutely amazing. Hey, hello there, Sim Aviation Early. So why did I make my own server? Well, the reason I made my own server is so I could put not only my stream announcements, but I can also put all my pictures and stuff. And this was a suggestion made by Dangerous Brian. And he suggested to me that if I made my own Discord, I could put all my photos and all my stuff, and it's where I could put my stream information and such. That is why I had my own server. Mm-hmm. You're always welcome, Erling. You're welcome anytime. So, the Yankees actually originated back in 1901 as the Baltimore Orioles, but of course, you're more than welcome to always put your pictures on it. You're more than welcome to. You're more than welcome to Zeus at any time. So the section I want you to go through is in play ball photos. That's where I recommend you put it. That is where you put your series photos. That is the channel on the Discord. You go into the play ball photo section and you put it there on the media section. So after the team was in Baltimore for 2 years, they moved to New York in 1903 and they became known as the Highlanders. However, during that time, an informal nickname called the Yanks came around, or known as the Yankees. And surprisingly, the Highlanders were quite successful. They finished second in the American League in 1904, 1906, and 1910. And they actually played at Hilltop Park, which isn't around anymore. And then they recently shared the polo... After they moved from Hilltop Park, they shared the polo grounds with the New York Giants. And they eventually become the Yankees. You're not flying today, but enjoying the stream? You're always more than welcome to join the stream. I'm glad you're enjoying it. So this is an old picture of Hilltop Park at the day. Then we get to the next one, the 1919 season. After the 1919 season, the Yankees made an agreement with the Boston Red Sox to acquire a known player named Babe Ruth for $25,000 in cash and $75,000 in promissory notes. This became one of the most lopsided trades in sports history. In fact, what do you think the Yankees got 26 World Series championships and the Boston Red Sox got 86 years of misery. Because that's what happened. With Babe Ruth in the lineup, the Yankees' fortunes were transformed as they won 96 games and they were only 3 wins short of a pennant. But 1921 was the real year the Yankees started to become the dominant power. In fact, it became 44 years period where the Yankees were, according to an author named Richard Worth, the greatest sustained winning empire in sports. And hold on one second. That is 2 members of the Thunderflies, a duet of Mart and HCBR. Good seeing you guys around here. They won, in fact, in 1921, they won their first American League pennant, but they lost to the New York Giants, who were in their own city. In fact, this is a common theme for much of the World Series back in the day. In fact, they were called the Subway Series because you can get through each of the teams via New York Subway. However, despite that setback, the next year, in 1922, the Yankees were finally successful in winning their first championship with Babe Ruth in 1923, the first of 27 of them. So yes, if you see all those World Series championships, that is kind of an occurrence. I mean, that is kind of the thing with the Yankees. And this picture here is the 1923 World Series. That's what actually happened, the picture of it. It's an old pic of it. After the 23 series, the Yanks kind of had some setbacks, but they won the pennant in 1926 with the addition of Tony Lazzeri. But we'll get to more of him the next year, because after they lost the Cardinals in the World Series, the Yankees had probably the greatest team in history. In 1927, the Yankees won 110 games and destroyed the Pirates in the World Series with their lineup dubbed Murderers Row. And that had 4, and of the top 6 order of that lineup, 4 of those are in the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame. Earl Combs, Tony Lazzeri, Babe Ruth, and Lou Gehrig. All Hall of Famers. Then the Yanks won the next year in 28, and then their run of pennants was over through the years 1929 to 31. But the Yanks, then again in 32, won 107 games and beat the Cubs in a memorable World Series. And speaking of that World Series, this was the World Series that Babe Ruth did his famed called shot. And apparently, as legend goes, that home run, Babe Ruth kind of pointed in that direction. He took the pitch and it hit actually where it went. It was a really fun moment for baseball. It's definitely a legend among Babe Ruth. That's for sure. Then from 1936 to 39, the Yankees actually won 4 straight World Series championships. The first of many dynasties for the Yankees. 1936 was noted for being the first year we got to see Joe DiMaggio, one of the more iconic hitters in center field. In 1931, Lou Gehrig actually suddenly retired, and that was due to the fact he was diagnosed with ALS, which is a really nasty spinal disease that he had. But they still won the championship without Lou Gehrig, which, I mean, that tells you how stacked those Yankees teams were. However, their run of championships ended in 1940 when they fell to second behind the Tigers for the American League pennant. Then the next year, they actually won it all against the Brooklyn Dodgers. And what was noted in that year was Joe DiMaggio had a 56-game hitting streak, which is still the Major League record to this day, as one of the greatest moments in sports history. In fact, many people consider that 56-game hit streak to be the unbreakable record. I mean, it's not easy to get a hit in 56 straight games. That's very difficult. In 42, the Yanks actually lost to the Cardinals in the World Series, but in the rematch the very next year, they won it all, in typical Yankees fashion. Then this is, then 1948, after another couple of interesting seasons, the Yankees hired a manager known as Casey Stengel, who was known for being a kind of bit of a clown, and he managed some really bad teams. But thanks to his help, the Yankees netted 5 straight World Series from 49 to 53, and they were led by some of the most iconic stars in baseball history: Yogi Berra, Joe DiMaggio, and Mickey Mantle. in '54, the Yanks actually won 103 games and they still didn't win the pennant because the Indians actually won 110 that year. And in 1955, they did come a bit short against Jackie Robinson's Dodgers, which finally gave Dodger fans something to cheer for as well. And then in 1956, they actually managed to win the World Series again, based on the back of MVP Mickey Mantle. And Mickey Mantle was an amazing player to watch. However, the Yanks lost against the Braves in '57, but won against them in the rematch the next year. However, 1969 was very memorable for the Yanks, as Mickey Mantle and recently added Roger Maris became one of the best-looking duels of its time. And on October 1st that year, Roger Maris hit home run number 61 to surpass Babe Ruth's record of 60 in 1927. In fact, that was quite an interesting discussion because due to the fact the games were longer, 162 versus 154, Major League Baseball for a long time had that record in an asterisk of 62 home runs. And I have a movie of it actually called 62, and it talks about Roger Maris's 1961 season. And I highly recommend watching that. I think it's a very fun movie to watch. However, after the 62 World Series, after winning 1962 World Series, they had 2 straight World Series disappointments in the 60s, and then afterwards, the Yankees kind of had their first major decline since the early 1910s. So in 1973, George Steinbrenner, who is the owner of this picture, bought the Yankees from CBS for $8.7 million, and then they hired, in 1979, they hired second baseman Billy Martin. Now, the thing about George Steinbrenner is that he's quite the controversial figure as a Yankees owner. He is loudmouthed, he is known for grudges, and it's very publicized. In fact, at one point, he was even banned from baseball because he was just that controversial. And his relationship with Billy Martin was very strained. In a 5-year period, they hired and Billy Martin was manager of the Yankees 13 times in 5 years. That's kind of funny. However, with the new change of management, the Yankees reached the '76 World Series, but they were swept by the Reds and the Big Red Machine as well. Then part 7. After the '76 season, they added Oakland star Reggie Jackson. Yeah, Steinbrenner strange. You should look up more about Steinbrenner. He is one strange guy. He is quite the controversial owner, if you ask me. After the '76, they added Reggie Jackson. Despite the turmoil with Steinbrenner and Martin, Reggie Jackson was huge as he helped win the 1977 World Series, and it earned him the nickname of Mr. October. In '81, the Yankees went back to the World Series and lost to the Dodgers. In fact, following the loss, the Yankees actually became the longest absence of the playoffs since 1921. In fact, the Yankees in the 1980s were led by Don Mattingly, who's actually the current manager of the Marlins now. And despite the fact they had the most total wins of any MLB team in the 80s, they only had 2 playoff appearances. And they weren't really much to note as well. Despite the poor showings of the 80s and 90s, they shifted their emphasis to the farm system, and that allowed them to get young talents like Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera, Eddie Pettit, and Bernie Williams. And then, in the 1996 season, before then, they hired Joe Torre as manager. And thanks to Joe Torre and the rise of several young Yankee stars, not only did they win their first American League East title in... Oh, look at that. There are the Thunderflies. They also added Steve and 2 Cats that are also here as well. It's great to see you all here. Not only did the Yankees win their first AL title AL East title in 15 years. They won the pennant and the World Series as well to beat the Atlanta Braves to finally get their first championship since '77. However, the next year they actually had a disappointing end to the 1997 season due to the fact they lost to the Indians in the ALCS. But the next year, that 1998 team was probably even better by some estimates. They went 114-48 and destroyed the Padres in the World Series that year. Like, there are a lot of debates. Either the '98 Yankees team or the 1927 Yankees are the best teams. Then the Yankees repeated as well as World Series champs both in 1999 and 2000. Thus, a mini dynasty was born during that time. I see them right behind me. Got your eye. We're getting close to Allentown, actually. And then we get to the last part of my history stuff. In 2001, the Yankees won their fourth straight pennant during the run, but they lost to a really young Arizona Diamondbacks team in a 7-game World Series. And this one's notable because this was the season during the 9/11 attacks, and there was a lot of tributes to the New York Police Department and firefighters. And that made it for a really charged World Series as well. And the 2001 World Series was won by Luis Gonzalez's walk-off in Game 7. But it was such a great World Series. Then the Yanks made it back to the World Series in 2003, but they were shocked by the Florida Marlins, who, by the way, never even won their own division. They made the wild card. And it's something I'll let you know. Look at that, they're back again. Look, 2 can play this in game. There. 2 can play this in game, you know. However, and then the 2004, they led the Red Sox 3 games to none in the ALCS, and they lost 4 straight games, and they completely choked it to the Red Sox. And the most humiliating thing about this for Yankee fans, the Red Sox won the World Series. I mean, if you're a Yankee fan, you did not want to see that happening. You don't want to see your Red Sox win the World Series. After Torres' departure in 2008, they signed former catcher Joe Girardi to manage the club, and in 2009, the Yankees were led by new additions Matt Teixeira and CC Sabathia. They won their they won the AL pennant, their 40th pennant, and their 27th and most recent World Series. Since then, the Yankees have made 8 playoff appearances, but they haven't made the World Series since then. Currently, right now, they're led by Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton and Garrett Cole, but they haven't got anything yet. So right here, we're flying near Allentown. So let's do some good flying around here. And there's also Skydive Man too. Lots and lots of Thunderflies are showing up here. As well. Boom. Yeah, and do some acrobatics because that's one thing the plane's really good at is doing twists and turns. So this is Allentown we're looking at. Gonna fly over around the city for a little bit. So I got really good news for you guys as well. I just hit 50 plus followers, which I'm very happy with. All I need to do is now I need to stream for 2 more days and I become Twitch affiliate, which is really good news for me. So flying over Allentown, we're getting near to the farmer's market, which is located right here. There's where the farmer's market is, right in front of me. Congrats, Viper Strict. Yep, I'm very happy with it. I'm very happy with it. I'm very proud. Billy Joel was here. LOL. Oh, Billy Joel. So we're gonna try and see if Coca-Cola Park is showing up for the Iron Pigs. See that showing up. Yep. Yeah, Allentown looks decently nice. That's for sure. I just saw today that Allison's going to be in CL's What the Flock, and I hope that she wins because Allison's an amazing person. And she should definitely get the win. Maybe someday I'll show up on What the Flock at some point. That would be, if it's baseball knowledge, I probably would win, but a lot of this is aviation knowledge, and I'm not that great. So in terms of runway, we will be is runway? Well, we could land on runway, let's see, let's land on runway 06. According to my navmap, let's land on runway 6, which is right ahead of me. You have a few flying with you today. Yep, I have more than a few. Zeus is flying with me. I have all the Thunderflies. And Kazaki Flyer is flying with me as well. What if I missed something? When I miss something? Well, you just missed the chances. Well, now the real challenge though is getting to New York and see if the frames are okay, because that's the ultimate litmus test of the United States through Wi-Fi for frames. So I'm gonna bleed off speed. Try to bleed off speed. Speed, lost speed. Gonna slightly increase the RPM, just so I have some power. I do have my flight events, though. I forgot to turn that on. Let's see. Boom. And I connected to my own flight events, so let's see. "46 frames per feet per second. That's actually really good. Now that was butter. That was actually amazing. Heart. And I will be landing right here. Boom. Turn off. So I see Kazaki Flyer. There is Drew. There's Zeus. Zeus is landed. And Zeus is down. Wonderful. Yeah, this plane isn't so bad to land. If you get it to slow down speed and let it touch, it's not bad. This plane's easy to handle. As well, gotta get some refreshment. Yeah, really nice valleys and such. Just trying to find Kazaki Flyer. Yeah, you need a... Yeah, flying dead stick is actually a good idea there, Zeus. That's what I did to try to get a smooth landing. As well. So, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to be exiting out of the sim for a sec, so I can put in the next flight plan. So, let me go ahead and exit out to the main menu and do that. So, now the last thing to talk about the Yankees, though. Legends. I mean, where do I begin? The Yankees have retired over 21 different numbers, and of all the teams, they have the most members in the Pro Baseball Hall of Fame. So I have to put 7 legends down for the Yankees because they have that many legends. So the first major legend is the player that does not need any introduction. Babe is Babe Ruth. He known by his 2 major nicknames, the Sultan Swat or the Bambino. He has become one of the best baseball players to ever put on a uniform. And that's for a good reason. And I'm not bullcrapping. He actually has earned that title for a good reason. For good reason. What's got you interested in the sport? Well, I've been a fan of baseball since I was a little kid there, Dangerous Brian. In fact, baseball's been my favorite sport since I was a little kid. I've played baseball when I was a little kid. I've been watching the bats ever since I was a little kid. Since I was little, growing up watching the bats. I've watched Major League Baseball for years. So I'm kind of grown up with the sport there, Brian. Well, he was an excellent pitcher for the Red Sox, and he could have easily been a Hall of Fame as a pitcher. When he became a Yankee, he became the larger-than-life figure the sport needed to grow. In his career, Babe Ruth hit .342 with 714 home runs, 2,873 hits, and 2,213 RBIs in his career. And mind you, that's extremely impressive when you have to consider all of this would happen during the 1920s, by the way, which is extremely impressive. He was the 1923 AL MVP, a 7-time World Series champion, 4 with the Boston Red Sox and 3 with the Yankees. He was 12 times the American League home run leader and 6 times the AL RBI leader. And here's the interesting thing about Babe Ruth. To this day still, Babe Ruth is first all-time in slugging percentage, second all-time in runs batted in, and third all-time in home runs. In RBIs, the only player to actually have more RBIs is Henry Aaron. In terms of home runs, he's actually only third behind Barry Bonds and Henry Aaron, which is extremely impressive considering this had happened during the 1920s. And a fun fact about Babe Ruth himself, and there's tons of fun facts, the popular craze that Babe Ruth inspired in the 1920s led to the creation of MLB's official candy bar, the Baby Ruth. Originally, this was called the Candy Cake. However, to capitalize on the popular Babe Ruth, the candy maker actually had to change name to Babe Ruth. However, because it was not officially licensed by the family, they couldn't really use the name very much. The candy maker was forced to not say it was inspired by Babe Ruth. However, the Baby Ruth commercials in 1995, the estate of Babe Ruth actually let them use the Baby Ruth as the inspiration. So it's definitely really fun to keep that in mind. Then Lou Gehrig, the Iron Horse Lou Gehrig, one of the probably considered by many to be the best first baseman. He's known for his durability and prowess at the plate, and due to the fact he appeared in 2,130 consecutive games, he was nicknamed the Iron Horse. Lou Gehrig hit .340 with 493 home runs, 2,721 hits, and 1,995 runs batted in. He was a 7-time All-Star, a 2-time AL MVP, and a 3-time home run leader for the Yankees. His 1927 season in particular was one of the greatest seasons of any hitter, as he hit .378 with 218 hits, 47 home runs, and 175 RBIs, which was back then a major league record. However, though, he actually had a sudden retirement back in 1939 due to ALS. And due to the disease, he actually passed away 2 years later on June 2nd, 1941. In fact, due to Lou Gehrig having the disease, there's a lot more awareness for it. And in fact, one of the official names of the disease is called Lou Gehrig's disease. And Gehrig was not the only one affected by it. Another famous person affected by this disease was Stephen Hawking, the brilliant astrophysicist, who sadly passed away a few years ago. And currently, right now, as of this year, Major League Baseball declared June 2nd to be Lou Gehrig Day, which happened 18 days ago. I mean, it was about time they did a day for Lou Gehrig. Then we have Joe DiMaggio, the Yankee Clipper. He was one of the finest hitters of his era, and he was most well known for that 56-game hitting streak. He hit .325 with 2,214 hits, 361 home runs, and 1,575 runs batted in. He was a 13-time All-Star for the Yankees. He won 9 World Series championships with them, because the Yankees during that time were a dynasty. 3 times was the American League MVP, and 2-time batting champion. And Joe DiMaggio was also drafted into the U.S. Army Air Services during the Second World War. However, he actually had a very comfortable life as a soldier, for what I've known. And a fun and very interesting fact, believe it or not, Joe DiMaggio had 2 really high-profile marriages. One with an actress named Dorothy Arnold, and the other one is probably the most popular actress in the 50s, Marilyn Monroe, in which people still to this day have conspiracy theories about her death. Yep, Joe DiMaggio. Quite the iconic player. Then we have Yogi Berra. Now, this guy spent all 15 years as a Yankee, 19 years as a Yankee, and is one of the best catchers in Major League history. And after his playing career, he became a manager and coach. In his playing career, he hit .285 358 home runs, and 1,430 RBIs. He also had 18 All-Star appearances, which is a lot. He has 10 World Series championships as a player, which is the most all-time of any player in the majors. And after his playing career, he won 3 more championships as a coach. So total, he actually has 13 championships. And the fun fact about Yogi Berra is his malapropisms, which is called Yogiisms. And this led him to have statements such as, "It ain't over till it's over," while speaking to reporters. And by the way, they actually have a lot of wisdom in those, too. We got 3 more legends to talk about. So let's get through this before we get in the air. Then we get to Mickey Mantle. Now, Mickey Mantle isn't just one of the best sluggers in Major League Baseball, he is also the best switch hitter to ever play the game. And basically, for those that don't know, a switch hitter is a hitter that can hit on both sides of the plate. It really depends on the pitching arm. So, for example, if it's a right-handed pitcher, use a left-handed batter, and vice versa. Mickey Mantle hit 298 with 2,415 hits, 536 home runs, and 1,509 ribbies. He also had a whopping 20 All-Star appearances, but he only played in 16 of them due to the injuries that he has nagged his career, 7 World Series titles, 3 American League MVPs, and the 1956 Triple Crown with that amazing season he had. And the fun fact about Mickey Mantle is that his Topps 52 Mickey Mantle card is the most iconic and expensive baseball card in the world. And it was just sold recently, earlier this year, for $5.2 million. Where is my plane? Well, it's right here. I was just getting over the facts before I start taking off the air again, Dangerous Brian. I just wanted to make sure I get to the intermission. Here's the plane. But I mean, there's that as well. Let's go ahead and get the plane started. So I apologize for anyone in the chat. So I'm going to have to start the checklist all over again. Wicked? Yeah, it's a wicked plane. That's for sure. Got part of the engine. So Mickey Mantle was, and that is his baseball card. 2 more legends before we get taken off the air. The next player is Derek Jeter, probably baseball's most iconic player of the 1990s and early 2000s. He is currently the Yankees' all-time hit leader, doubles leader, games played, stolen bases, and at-bats. He in his career hit .310 with 3,465 hits, 260 home runs, and 1,311 RBIs. Do you still play baseball? Not anymore. I'm not in the physical condition to play baseball anymore, but I know more than a few people who played baseball, Dangerous Brian. Jeter's appeared in 14 All-Star games, 5 Gold Gloves, 5 Silver Sluggers, and 5 World Series championships. His strong performance in the playoffs has given him the moniker Mr. November after his clutch home run in Game 6 of the 2001 World Series. And yes, if you've seen any Gillette commercials or anything like that back in the day, you definitely see Derek Jeter. And currently, he's actually now a minority owner of the Miami Marlins. So yes, he's actually now an owner. And the last one is Mariano Rivera. Probably, in my honest opinion, the greatest reliever to ever play baseball. In fact, his signature pitch, the cutter, was so notorious that it tore both through hitters and their bats with impeccable accuracy. He had an ERA of 2.21 and has over 652 saves, which is the most of any player of all time. A 13-time All-Star, 5 times that he was the American League Reliever of the Year, and 3 times was the MLB save leader. Mariano Rivera was even more dominant in the playoffs, actually. In fact, he has had he has hosted many records in the playoffs, including the lowest ERA of 0.70, meaning he only allowed zero point 0.7 runs per game, and 42 saves in the playoffs. And the fun fact that Derek Jeter mentioned was that more men actually was on the moon than the runs that Mariano Rivera gave up. And that was due to the fact that 12 men landed on the moon, but Mariano Rivera only gave up 11 runs to the entire playoffs. That's how dominant he was. And the fun fact is that Mariano Rivera's intro song was Metallica's Inner Sandman, which led to his nickname Sandman, and is the only player to be in Cooperstown to be unanimously inducted. And the second highest was actually his teammate Derek Jeter. So, yeah, that's quite the interesting factoid that I found out. So he has all these amazing players, and yet they weren't unanimous, and yet Mariano Rivera was the one. Kind of weird. So I'm getting ready to the taxi at runway 031. So I apologize if I took a bit longer through it. There was just a lot of Yankee legends I had to cover, and I think I had to cover all the Yankee legends, or the Yankee fans would have to kill me for it. Well, careful. Well done, mate. Yep. But I mean, yeah, you can't talk about like going to New York without the Yankees. I just can't. And yeah, and there's one more team I have to cover too. I have to cover the Mets. I didn't get something to drink. My vocal cords are not going well. I see the trims and the numbers are on the bottom. Yep. So with that, let's stop. Let's get our ATC. So for this leg of the flight, we will be heading to, we're heading to KJFK, which is the main international airport hub of the city of New York. This one is a 71 nautical mile trip, and one of the waypoints to get there is that we're going to have to go through Floyd Bennett Field, which is now a park. And we might even fly by Coney Island at some point if we want to. And I think that'd be a really fun way to fly. I mean, there's a lot of planes I would have picked, but none of them would have given you a great view of New York City that's as good as the Stearman. Nice region, it is. And we're airborne. We're up, boys. It is a very nice region, I have to agree. Woo. Just doing a bit of stunts for a sec. So I'm ready for Murph's flight to St. Louis tomorrow. But I don't know if I should give Murph the whole talk about St. Louis. Oh, hey there, Splasher. You're coming in shortly. So, let me just pop in the route for you, Splasher, if you don't mind. So we are in... Actually, we're not going there. I forgot to change the route. But we're K-Abe, which is Lehigh Valley. We're actually going to make our next stop to KJFK, actually. I forgot to update the route. And I'm on the East USA server, Splasher. So we're going to wait till you spawn in, okay? So yeah, but I think you just missed it, Splasher. We were talking about the Yankees. Mickey Mantle, Babe Ruth, Gehrig, DiMaggio and his marriage with Marilyn Monroe, Derek Jeter, Mariano Rivera. You missed all of it. I got the tail end. Yep. Well, so according to my map, we need to head to 106 degrees. So I need to turn the compass to 106 degrees. Okay, I think we're there. So we're... Stearman's a lovely plane, so we're gonna... So... Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with the Thunderflies. The roll rate on this is a little much, but I mean, to be fair, it is kind of an aerobax plane. It'll hurt. This leg of the flight should take a bit longer. So now let's pull up my slideshow. So there is one more team in New York we gotta mention, the Mets. Now the Mets were established in 1962 as an expansion team, and are currently the most successful expansion team in the major leagues. They have won 2 World Series championships in 1969 and 1986, 5 National League pennants, and 6 NL East Division championships. They currently play in Citi Field in the borough of Queens, and have previously played in the Polo Grounds and Shea Stadium. Their team colors are actually pretty unique as they're blue and orange, and that's the fact it honors both the Brooklyn Dodgers and the New York Giants, who have previously played in New York City. And the fun fact is that they actually have their own fight song, Meet the Mets, and their mascot is Mr. Met, one of the oldest mascots in the major leagues. So the Mets were actually established in 1962, but after the 57 season, when the Dodgers and Giants moved from New York City to California, the National League needed a new team in the city of New York, so they actually added the team through a proposal by William Shea, whose picture's up there. And with him, they brought the Mets to the Polo Grounds, and eventually they want to build a new stadium. And in the expansion draft, they actually acquired aging players like Roger Craig and Richie Ashburn, alongside hiring Casey Stengel as they want to get the Yankees the nostalgia of the old times. However, the original season did not go as planned for the Mets. They went 40 and 120, the most losses in the major league since 1899. Oh, the Mets were terrible. To be fair, they're an expansion team, but still, it's still terrible. And the next year, they didn't even fare much better. They only went 51 and 111. absolutely terrible. However, one of the bright spots that year was Duke Snider, who was also the star for the Pirates, and he made the All-Star game during that time. However, and throughout much of the 60s, they did continue to struggle. However, they quickly turned things around when they selected Tom Seaver in the 67 draft. And in 1968, Gil Hodges became the manager. And then 1969 was one of the craziest Cinderella stories in baseball. The Mets didn't just get their first ever winning season, but thanks to a collapse of the Chicago Cubs, they managed to win the National League East with a 162 record. And in the postseason, they managed to defeat the Braves three games to none to win their first ever pennant, and they faced the Baltimore Orioles in the World Series. And mind you, that Orioles team that year had Jim Roberts, Frank Robinson, Boog Powell, and Brooks Robinson. All those players are insanely good players. And they didn't just beat the Orioles, they shocked the Orioles. 4-1, the amazing Mets won their first championship. And that was actually the nickname of that team, was the Amazing Mets. As well. And this picture here was from the victory celebration of 1969. Quite the interesting one. However, following the 69 season, they kind of wore off. But they still continue to have winning seasons, but they never got the same success. Then in 1973, the Mets actually were in a division race, and they were originally last place in August. However, relief pitcher Tug McGraw actually said, "You gotta believe," as a rallying cry. And they finished first in that division with an 82-79 record, which actually won them the division. Then they beat Cincinnati's Big Red Machine in a big upset to get their second pennant. And they pushed the really tough Athletics team at the time to 7 games, but they came up short in Game 7, and they don't have the World Series. Which is really unfortunate for the Mets. Really unfortunate. Then after the pennant winning season, the Mets kind of fell out of contention. They fell below 500 for the first time in 6 years. Though they continued to win in 75 and 76, but they never came close to winning that division. And in 1978, they were last place once again, and they would not be a competitive team until the mid-80s. In 1980, the original owners of the Mets sold the franchise to the Doubleday Publishing Company for $15 million, which was unheard of at the time. And they hired Fred Wilpon to take the role of club president, and Wilpon then hired Frank Cashin as the general manager, and he helped rebuild the Orioles to be in a powerful franchise that they were. And then Cashin's impact on the organization took some time, but the success they got was when they drafted players like Dale Strawberry and Dwight Gooden, who ended up being huge pieces for the Mets' success in the mid-80s. And then in 85, the Mets acquired Gary Carter from the Expos, and they won 98 games, but they lost the division title to the Cardinals. However, in 86, everything came together for the Mets. They dominated the National League East with a 108-win record. They beat the Cardinals in the NLCS to win their third pennant. In the World Series against the Red Sox, they actually faced elimination in Game 6. But the Mets rallied through to force Game 7 via Mookie Wilson's hit under Bill Buckner's leg. This was a really infamous moment because, ask Red Sox fans, they would probably tell you, Mookie Wilson hits the ball and it gets through Buckner's. Buckner trying to get to the grab, and the ball just throws through his legs. And that scored the winning run, and many Red Sox fans still had a grudge against Bill Buckner for those moments. And then the Mets win Game 7 to get their second World Series, and Red Sox fans will absolutely hate Bill Buckner until 2004. In 1988, the Mets won their division again, but they did not beat the Dodgers in the LCS. And for the next 2 years, their championship team was disassembled due to injuries or retirement, or they leave the team. In the early 90s, they did struggle. However, in the late 90s, they clawed their way back to success with players like Mike Piazza. But as they barely missed the postseason in 97 and 98. However, the Mets returned back to the postseason for the first time since '88, and they advanced the NLCS only to lose to the Braves, who, by the way, were the best team in the National League in the '90s, which shouldn't be a surprise. In 2000, they actually took the wild card, and by beating the Braves, they got to the NL pennant. But they lost to the Yankees 4-1 in the World Series in the Subway Series, which means, yes, the two New York teams did go against each other there as well. And we get to the final part of the history. I forgot, it's Yankees. I actually totally misspelled it. Let me change it. I made a gaffe. In the following 2000 season, they struggled once more, but returned back to form in 2006. They won the National League East and went to the NLCS, but they lost to the Cardinals. In 2009, they actually moved to Citi Field. After a few struggling seasons, the Mets actually won their division, and they won their 5th pennant by sweeping the Cubs, denying the Cubs a World Series. And in the World Series, they faced the Kansas City Royals, but they were defeated in 6 games. And currently, as of now, they recently got Francisco Lindor, but we'll have to wait and see for the Mets' success with Francisco Lindor, Jacob deGrom, and others. So for Mets legends, they don't have nearly as many legends as the Yankees do, being a much younger team and all that, and not having the World Series championships, but they have some really nice players. Obviously, I think the best player in Mets history is Tom Seaver. Terrific Tom. Tom Terrific is the best player in Mets history. He had a career 311 wins and 205 losses with a 2.86 ERA and 3,640 strikeouts. He was a 12-time All-Star, a 3-time National League Cy Young Award winner, a 5-time National League strikeout leader, and a 3-time National League wins leader. And he's currently the Mets' all-time wins leader for the Mets. And obviously, after he became a Met, he was traded to the Reds. And his last team, ironically, was actually the Red Sox, which is kind of a bit ironic because he played against them in the World Series as well. And the fun fact, when he was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1992, he actually had the highest percentage of voters with 98.84% of all the eligible ballots, which is actually crazy to think about, especially during that time. The next player is not a Hall of Famer, but he was one of the most defining pieces of the '86 Mets team, and was a fine defensive player. Keith Hernandez was a great defensive player, 5-time All-Star and an 11-time Gold Glover, with over 2,180 hits, with a 296 batting average and over 1,000 RBIs. And currently, he's now a television broadcaster for Mets games on Sportsnet New York, alongside Gary Cohen and former Mets teammate Ron Darling. Pull up terrain. Yep, but I'm not really worried about terrain. I'm not worried, but I still got plenty of altitude from the terrain, and I'm just going to tell you. Beautiful terrain. Then the next player is the most recent Met in the Hall of Fame. This is Mike Piazza. He is one of the best hitting catchers in Major League history, alongside Johnny Bench and Yogi Berra as the best hitting catchers. He played for 5 different teams. He's from 1992 to 2007. That includes the Dodgers, Marlins, Mets, Padres, and A's. And he was inducted to the Hall of Fame in 2016 with 83% of the votes. In his career, Piazza hit .308 with 437 home runs, which, by the way, is the most of any catcher, and 1,335 RBIs. He was a 12-time All-Star and was a 10-time Silver Slugger. And the thing I found out was, after his career's over, it turns out his defense was actually underrated, as since 2000, in a report from 2008, he was actually one of the top people for making their pitchers better. So his defense was actually a bit underrated. And fun fact, he's only one of 10 players to ever have over 400 home runs with a 300 lifetime average while never striking out over 100 times in a season. That means Piazza did not strike out a lot, which is actually a good thing. You don't want to have lots of strikeouts. But Piazza was an amazing hitter. And the last Mets legend I do want to mention is going to be David Wright. He's the most recent addition, to my opinion, for Mets legend. He is one of the most defining players for the Mets during the 2000s and early 2010. David Wright hit 296 with 242 home runs and 960 RBIs. He's a seven-time All-Star, two-time Gold Glover, and two-time Silver Slugger, and he's currently the Mets' all-time leader in hits, doubles, and RBIs, and actually more. But I don't want to fill up the slideshow. And the fun fact about him is that he's only one of 3 players to actually play for the Mets for their entire careers, and that is actually the reason I put Wright's name on here. Because I gotta mention Mets for life. Here. So let's get flying to New York. Pull up terrain. I don't think I have to worry about the terrain very much. But absolutely beautiful. What a beautiful day. There's a load of planes with you. I know there is so many planes. Not only are there planes with me, but there's a lot of planes because New York is extremely busy. I mean, to be fair, New York is one of the busiest places in the country. People fly to New York all the time. Planes are everywhere, Brian. In fact, I really appreciate you coming here, Dangerous Brian. I'm just gonna fly this way, just so I can make sure they catch up a bit. I've lost some time exploring underneath a bridge. Hey, that's the point about flight sim. You're not afraid to explore. So we're getting very close. We're not too far from New York City. We should get there decently quick. All I can figure is packet loss doing 103 knots. It's packet loss. There. Doing 100 knots. I'm also doing around 100 knots myself. That's why I kept this. Yep. So the destination we'll be going to is going to be New York City. Now, New York City is the most populous city in the entire country and is one of the most populous megacities in the world when you count the entire New York metropolitan area. The city itself hosts 8 million people, and the metropolitan area is around 20 million people. The origins of the city of New York trace all the way back to 1624 by Dutch colonists that have set up a trading post on the southern tip of Manhattan Island. The settlement itself was called New Amsterdam and was chartered as a city in 1653, but it was eventually taken over by the British. Originally, New York was the capital of the United States until George Washington moved it to Washington, D.C. The city should be keeping up with you all, but falling further behind. Well, don't worry, Kazaki. Take your time. I'm not worried. The city itself is divided to 5 different boroughs: Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens, Brooklyn, and Staten Island. The Yankees are from what we know, Manhattan is where Times Square, the Madison Square Garden, the Empire State Building, and the World Trade Center are located all in Manhattan. The Bronx is where the Yankees are from, in the Bronx Zoo. Queens is where the Mets are located in LaGuardia Airport. Brooklyn is where the Brooklyn Dodgers used to be. It's currently the home of the Mets, and the Brooklyn Bridge is where it connects to. And Staten Island, which is a little island in the region. Some of the most famous landmarks in the New York City area include the Empire State Building, Brooklyn Bridge, World Trade Center, Central Park. I also include Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty, which was given to the United States by the French. Those are some famous landmarks in New York City of what to expect. And finally, we get to the food section. New York's basically home to nearly every kind of ethnic group you can think about. So basically, you can find ethnic food of any kind in New York. There's not any one dish that defines New York, but the things that I think define New York the most: Nathan's famous hot dogs are very popular on Coney Island, and we'll be flying over there pretty soon. And the delis. Delis are insanely popular due to the fact that New York has a really large Jewish population, and delis are extremely popular in the region. So yes, good old deli corned beef sandwich, absolutely delicious. And speaking of Nathan's famous hot dogs, Joey Chestnut actually currently owns the record. You're not flying that kite ever again, because you're not flying the airline. I'm taking the steering. You're not flying over. Do you know we're currently getting UNR Statue of Liberty these weeks? Smaller? Yep. Really, I didn't know we were going to get more Statue of Liberties. So, and basically, for those that don't know, the hot dog eating contest that happens every year on July 4th, and currently the record for the most hot dogs, and there's been records. The previous winner was Joey Chestnut. He's won the hot dog eating contest for a lot of years. Currently in 2020, he ate 75 hot dogs. It is a New York tradition. I'm not kidding. And that contest has gone all the way back since 1967. Though, I will tell you this, some say that they can eat 100 hot dogs in 10 seconds. For all we know, they're the Thunderflies. guess I'm going further away. No one can eat a thunderfly. No, Dangerous Brian, what I'm mentioning is that they can eat 108 inch finest hot dogs in 30 seconds. So we gotta turn back the right direction. So we're currently in New Jersey. We're not far from, according to my nav map, we are not far from Newark, New Jersey. And not far off of Jersey City. It's right across the Upper Bay. Now the biggest question is how my frames are going to handle New York City. That's probably going to be my big question: is how is my frames going to handle New York City? I don't think Boston's ever going to be this bad. The only city that I think this could be bad is Los Angeles. And maybe San Francisco. Just gonna do a few loop. Whoa. Whoa. I took a lot of speed there. I'm going to reset the time. I think I see New York City in the background. There's the Big Apple. Right there. The big... She creaking loud. Yeah, I took a lot of speed on that. So it showed realized creaking sound. There's the Big Apple, New York City. We shouldn't be far from our destination. There's Newark Liberty Airport, located over there. But I mean, absolutely beautiful here in New York City. Very lovely. I mean, like I said, this is one of the big reasons I take the Stearman. Look at that. That is amazing. See the Big Apple from here. It looks amazing. I know. New York looks incredible, this lighting. It's just... In fact, I think I can make it even look better. Let's see. Oh, yeah. That's where it's at. That's where it's at. New York City. Absolutely awesome. There's the Vizara of North Bridge, and I need to head back to that direction. There's the Nazaro Meadows Bridge. I see that right there. We're going to get very close to Bennett Field. We're going to do a quick flyby of Coney Island. And I should be heading to Coney Island right now. There she is, Coney Island Beach. We're flying over what appears to be Coney Island. This is where The famed Nathan's Hot Dog stand is located, is around here. And the New York Aquarium are located in Coney Island. And the Statue of Liberty. Well, we're actually going to go to the Statue of Liberty there as one of my waypoints for the last leg in the Ultra Air Lights. There is this ballpark. Now the ballpark down below, that's home to the Brooklyn Cyclones. A minor league team actually plays right here in Brooklyn. There it is, Brooklyn Cyclones. Pretty cool. They play in Coney Island, right next to the theme park and stuff. It's really cool. This is your first time flying New York City, Splasher. Yeah, New York City's lovely to fly. If your frames don't suffer as a result. So we're actually near our airport. So guys, if you don't mind, you can land a statue with an ultra helo. Yep. So we're actually got 2 more. We're actually now heading to Floyd Bennett Field, which is actually a national park. And we'll fly over the old airfield for a bit, and then for our landing spot, we will be landing at 04 left onto John F. Kennedy International. We'll be landing there. I know there's a lot of names on that airport, but I made some flights here by FPS stutters. Zeus, if it feels like too much of a problem, we could always switch to North Europe, and we wouldn't have to face traffic. I'm going to turn on night just to see. I mean, look at... Let's see, nightlife. As well. Okay, I just came back to the day. I have a carrier here. Yeah, you got an aircraft carrier. Cool. So, guys, this right here... if I take a flyby, this is Floyd Bennett Field. This is actually the site where Howard Hughes has landed his 1930 trip around the world in the Lockheed Super Electra. This is where he made the trip. So Alison Johnson might want to do something about that, since she always wants to fly an Electra. Here. So I'm getting ready to land at the airport. So KG, yes, for the Electra, yep. So I'm gonna go ahead and land at JFK. So I will be landing there on runway 04 left. So that's where it's at. So down over here, this is Jamaica Bay. This is a wildlife refuge in the region. This is where I'm flying towards out there right now. So there's 04 left. I see it right there. But yeah, New York City is kind of a level. KJFK is actually in the sim one of the handcrafted airports, and is actually the busiest airport in New York City, and one of the busiest in the entire country. So that's why it's not surprising a crap ton of names on here. Shrink it down. So I do have a question for you all. So how do you guys think about the new Norix update for Microsoft Flight Simulator? I personally really like the new update, but I'm much more excited when the sim comes to Germany and Vienna, like Germany, Austria, and Switzerland. I'm more excited for that because I've always wanted to fly to Vienna and see all the classic Viennese landmarks. Like that's always been one of my favorites. Just gonna tax out the runway. So there's KGFK. Yeah, it's a huge airport. But we need to explore more of the Nordic states. I know. I've been flying around on Finland. Like the forts, and I think my favorite of the Nordic update so far is flying through Western Norway and through Finland. Finland is absolutely incredible. Even though it's flat, you have all those trees. Just the forest gives you a. It's all the forest as well, and there's Druid Zeus. You're dead sticking it. Yeah. There's no flaps, you gotta dead stick it. Yeah, we better get out of the runway, Zeus, because there's an airline, there's a Gikna in front of us. I mean, this is one of the most Gikna-friendly airports in the country. Alright. I guess we're finally getting to, this is the final leg. I'm gonna have to go ahead and exit out of the sim and reload the last flight plan. So the last leg, I'll be taking the Aerolite, and we'll be giving you a tour of New York City. So let's do that. So in total, we're actually going to be visiting 6 Major League ballparks, because at one point the city of New York actually had 3 different baseball teams until the 50s. There's so many countries that we would not see if we have the sim. I know. Either due to travel restrictions or money or any of that. That's one of the beauties of a flight sim. Definitely taking the ultralight. So many get to country C. I got 700 hours of flight now this day. Great. That's awesome. I actually just reached over 800 hours. And I'm only 200 more hours to we get done. So actually, there are 6 stadiums we're going to be visiting around the sites. So the first one is Shea Stadium. This one here is Shea. This was actually opened back in 1964. As the original home of the Mets to replace the Polo Grounds. And it was the home of the Mets until 2008. Like other multi-purpose stadiums, the dimensions are symmetrical, and it's actually hosted football teams, including the Jets. However, one thing that really set Shea apart was the home run apple, which is very well known. It was installed in 1980, and whenever a Met hits a home run, the apple rises from the hat. In fact, this is such an iconic feature that it's eventually moved over to the Mets' new ballpark, Shea Stadium. And one of the interesting facts about the home run apple is that it was actually transferred over to Citi Field. And finally, the fun fact is that Shea Stadium was the location for the opening act of the Beatles' 1965 North America tour, and it was right at the peak of Beatlemania, which took over the world. I know many of us weren't alive back in the day of the Beatles, but the Beatles were an absolutely huge deal back in the 60s. CDD on final to JFK. No! Splaster, no! No! It's the Gremlins. They're to blame. Blame. The next one is their most recent new ballpark. This is Citi Field. This was opened in 2009 at the cost of $600 million. It is the current home of the Mets. It has a capacity of 42,000. In the ballpark itself actually had unique dimensions compared to Shea, as the dimensions were 335, 358, 408, 375, and 330. Originally, though, the dimensions were a bit deeper, but they had to change it because it was kind of an extreme pitcher's park. It was that to the extreme, so they had to alter the dimensions. some of the unique features of the park. They included the Jackie Robinson Rotunda, which is a whole rotunda area filled with interesting information about Jackie Robinson as a tribute to the Brooklyn era. The home run apple, which was transferred from Shea, it's now in center field. And the Mets Hall of Fame is located there. And in terms of fun facts, it is located right next to the LaGuardia Airport. In like other New York City ballparks, it's actually accessible by the New York subway system, which is really unique. It's only New York only. So we'll be visiting there. I have the DC6, but no CDD. Maybe it's the DC6 sort of problem, Bear Splasher. I feel really sorry for you. So I'm going to go ahead into my first destination here. We're going to head to Queens. Have to run, Viper. Great. Have a great stream. Hey, it's good to see you, Splasher. It's nice for you to stop by, and I'll stop by your next stream soon, okay? Gotta reset the time. Carry through or HGS character. Oh, a brand new build there, Splasher. Surprised. Surprised to see it crashed. Especially, this is probably stable here in New York City. So now just off of JFK. So definitely following the highway. So we would definitely be taking our first trip to Washington, Queens. So definitely quite nice. We're gonna definitely get there pretty quickly. So beyond City Field is LaGuardia, and right next to LaGuardia is actually Rikers Island. In the comics, this is where they actually keep the world's supervillains located at, Rikers Island. Rikers Island is a prison, so if things aren't working there, Splasher, maybe just get rid of the DC6. If I were you, maybe I'll install the DC6 and then install it some other time. The airport's incredibly detailed. I know it's one of the original handcrafted solo airports. Been there since the really original. Very beautiful area. Definitely very nice. We're getting through the Flushing Meadows Park. As well. Very beautiful as well. Surprised I'm getting good frames here. I'm actually very surprised. I think I see City Field in the background. I see City Field right in front of me, actually. So that spear structure ahead, this little spear structure right ahead, that is the Unispear. Now, the Unispear was actually constructed back in 1964 as part of the 1964 World's Fair, right here in Queens. It's definitely an iconic landmark of the area. Then these collection of stadiums in front of us. This is actually the tennis. These are tennis facilities, right here. These are where all the tennis facilities in New York built, right here. And included the Billie Jean King Center here for all the tennis. And right in front of us is Citi Field, home of the Mets. See, the entrance of this is designed by the next ballpark, Ebbets Field, which is got lots of inspiration from there. There's the home run apple. Right here, you see all the billboards. Yeah, this is Citi Field for you all. Really, really nice. Really, really nice. Now we're off to the next destination. After crossing, we get to our next waypoint and onto our next stadium, which is located here and it's located in Brooklyn. This is Ebbets Field. Ebbets Field was originally opened in 1913 on the borough of Brooklyn and has hosted the Dodgers of Brooklyn from 1913 to 1957. It has a capacity of 31,000 and the dimensions are around 348, 351, 399, 344, and 297, with the 297 being 38 feet high. And it was originally built on the area known as Pigtown because of the pig stuff, but it ended up being one of the nicest ballparks in the area. And Ebbets Field was home to quite a few memorable moments at the park, including a 4-home run game by Gil Hodges, Johnny Van Meter's no-hitter during the park's first ever night game, and obviously the first game played in the major leagues by Jackie Robinson when he broke the color barrier. The fun fact about this ballpark is that the current site of the ballpark is now home to the Jackie Robinson Apartments. The apartments now take over the stadium. Definitely very nice. I have to apologize. I have something that needs to be taken care of for a sec. So I'm going to pause this stream for a sec. Sorry about that. I had something going on for a sec. Definitely look at all these buildings and apartments. Definitely made interesting here in Brooklyn. Looks like I'm here, Druid. Um, I'm going to quickly go over see what New York kind of looks like at night. Pure dark. I mean, would you look at that? New York at nighttime. Absolutely incredible. Just want to see what New York kind of looked like at a quick nighttime. So we're actually, I think the apartments are right in front of us. The Ebbetsfield apartments. We're going to give them a quick passerby. There's the Ebbett Fields apartments right in front of us. That's where the old ballpark used to be. We're just going to get a quick flyby. Here they are, the apartments. Then after we go through these apartments, we will be heading to our next waypoint, which is going to be these. It's actually not a ballpark, but rather a very famous New York landmark, the Statue of Liberty. Here's the Ebbetsfield apartments. Because there needs to be a lot of affordable housing in New York. And I think I see the Statue of Liberty. So, Druid Zeus, how are you handling the frames of New York City. I know New York can be quite the major issue. Like I'm handling the frames actually quite well. Oh, okay. Do you want me to switch servers? If that's alright with you? I'm actually going to try to switch servers. Let's switch to... I'm going to switch to North Europe, since... And see, that's helping you out quite a bit. I always have North Europe as a server backup in case if East USA ever gets too busy. Hmm. Because I know New York can be quite a busy place, so. And I think I see the Statue of Liberty in front of us. I also see Governor's Island, which is one of the other landmarks in the city. And then next to the Statue of Liberty and Governor's Island is Ellis Island, where they did better on 18 FPS. So basically, you get 3 more FPS. But hey, it's free extra frames. Now, Ellis Island is where a lot of immigrants, where they need to do immigration papers and all that, they go to Ellis Island. So this here is Governor's Island. There's Governor's Island to our right. And there's the Statue of Liberty in front of us, guys. So this was actually made in New York in 1876. It originally was a gift from France to celebrate America's centennial. It's 100 years of independence. It's absolutely beautiful, awesome statue. This is the monument that defines the United States and all the values it strives to be. And there's Ellis Island. So now we're going to get into the heart of Manhattan, guys. So we're gonna be, there's the big old World Trade Center in front of us. This was meant to replace the old Twin Towers that were the two World Trade Towers that used to be there, but those collapsed during 9/11. So it took them a while, and then they finally build a new trade towers, which I'm very glad they managed to rebuild a new one because it looks really nice. A beautiful skyscraper. But I mean, that's another reason why I like to fly the Aerolite. Like, it's one thing to do this in a 172. It's another thing to fly alongside Manhattan in these Aerolites. It's going to be crazy. So the next one is going to be another slideshow. Is the Polo Grounds? Is we're going to head next? So the Polo Grounds were opened in 1890 and have been expanded on a few times, including the most recent, the last one being in 23. It hosted the New York Giants, which they host both the football and baseball Giants. And it also hosted the Yankees and Mets until its closing in 1963. It has a capacity of 55,000, and unlike any other stadium in the majors, it has the most unique dimensions. I mean, left field and right field is like 279, then you go to the extreme 450, 43 at center, 449, and 258. The interesting features in the Polo Grounds include the center field clubhouse. Only Babe Ruth has been probably the only player that can hit it there. The bullpen and the power alleys and the second deck overhangings. And memorable moments in the Polo Grounds include Willie Mays' The Catch, Bobby Thompson's Shot Her Around the World, in the 1934 All-Star Game where Carl Hubble absolutely dominated, striking out 6 straight Hall of Fame players with his screwball. But yeah, the reason why the Polo Grounds has this strange dimensions is because its shape is more oval than a normal baseball diamond. So that's why you get really short left field, right field, but you get really deep corners in center field. So it's very odd. At least now we see some of New York's other most famous landmarks. There's the Empire State Building, and then further down is the Chrysler Building. So actually, during the 30s, there was actually a skyscraper tower to see which building would be the tallest in the city of New York. And it ended up being the Empire State Building in 1936 that was the tallest. And it turns out the only thing that surpassed it was the World Trade Center in 2014. But I mean, isn't it just awesome we get to fly over all the skyscrapers? I mean, that's where it's at, guys. Who needs your fast cars and stuff when you could just fly over the cities? And we're actually going to be heading towards Times Square. Times Square is where we're going to be heading. And we might even see the Madison Square Garden, too. The longtime home of the Knicks. And there's Madison, and there's Madison Square Garden right here. See that round building over there by the center? That is Madison Square Garden. That's the home of the New York Knicks. They've been playing basketball there for a very long time. Also home to the Big East tournament has played in Madison Square Garden. And most recently, the ACC tournament's also played in Madison Square Garden. Lots of iconic basketball games have played in Madison Square Garden. It's crazy. There's the big old Empire State Building. Absolutely massive in every way, shape, and form. It's huge. And I think straight ahead of us is Times Square. This is where they do all the New York. They do all the New Year stuff, and I believe there is where they do the new. This one in particular, I think it's this one right here. That's where they do the New Year celebrations at. Assuming I don't want to get run over by the buildings, I have to be really careful. Times Square. Oh boy, we're gonna fly in Times Square. Oh, there's Times Square right down beneath me. Now in front of us is going to be Central Park. This is actually one of the largest inner city parks in the country. So they managed to build a whole park area right around New York City proper. Now I don't think we're too far away. So we're actually going to talk about the last two stadiums and we'll be done with the slideshows for the rest of the day. First is the original Yankee Stadium. This was opened back in 1923 and it was home to the Yankees until 2008. It is most well known by its nickname, the house that Ruth built, after Babe Ruth. It had a capacity of 57,000 people, and the dimensions are around 318 left, 399 left center, 408 in center, 385 in right center, and 314 at right field. Some of the most unique features of the original Yankee Stadium include Monument Park, and that was once in the middle of play, but thanks to the renovations in the 70s, they moved it beyond the outfield. The iconic facade, which was all over the roof and all that, and in the three-tier seating. It was the first major league ballpark to have three-tier seating. It also got a major overhaul in the 1970s to modernize the stadium, and some of the most memorable moments at the park included Lou Gehrig's famous retirement speech, "I'm the luckiest man on the face of the earth," he once said. Roger Maris's 61st home run to break Babe Ruth's record, and the 1958 NFL championship game was held at the original Yankee Stadium, and it was known as the greatest game ever played. Now, I actually have both pictures from both the renovated part and the unrenovated, and they almost look like two very different ballparks. So definitely very unique. And finally, the last one. This is the new Yankee Stadium, it was $1.5 billion when this thing was built. It opened in 2009 and it's been home to the Yankees ever since. It has a capacity of 47,000 and the dimensions are actually the same as the original Yankee Stadium, which makes sense. It's basically a near replica of the stadium. Like the original, it has Monument Park, the New York Yankees Museum, and the iconic frieze, which is just like the old Yankee Stadium. And the frieze. Some memorable moments at the park include Derek Jeter's 3,000th hit, the 2009 World Series was held here, and Derek Jeter's final game. Those were all iconic moments at the ballpark. So right here, we're getting down to Central Park. I mean, it's just really nice. Imagine landing an ultralight or seaplane here. That would be a challenge actually if anyone can land a seaplane on the lake. Because this is the reservoir. So we're getting into from Manhattan to Harlem, which is a neighborhood in the region. Once we get through Harlem and the Bronx, we should be pretty good here. And our final destination will be at Kilo Hotel Papa. What's in again? Sorry. Once again, I'm sorry. I don't know what the N means. NATO phonetic alphabet. Oh, November. Got it. I'm sorry. I'm not. November. So we're finally done with the. So we finally get through Central Park. Now we're heading to Harlem. Mm-hmm. But I mean, that was just really cool to fly around New York City and see all the landmarks in the airline. Absolutely awesome. I mean, you get to see the scale of New York City. I mean, I could have also taken this in Stearman too. Stearman would have been very fun to fly around, but it just wouldn't be the same if you ask me. So Goblin Zeus, you've used the Shift C stats, right? I believe you had that. Is it worth it for me to use it? Hmm. Okay, guys. What the engine sound? I have what? You have the Shift Z stats, I believe. Shift Z. I think that's a mod. And I see the Polo Grounds area in front of us. The ship, no, I'm at Shift Z. That's why I mentioned Shift C. I apologize for my accent. I probably should get that mod and see if that way I can display my frames. So maybe because I don't know how many frames I have. There is where the polo grounds used to stand, right there next to the river, right to the Harlem River, and then to our right, this is Yankee Stadium. Now, if you wonder what the original Yankee Stadium was, well, it's right next to it, and it's turned into Heritage Park. And here's the thing, though, if things get started this bad, if you guys don't mind, I might have to turn the multiplayer off. Just get the optimal settings. Maybe that could probably solve my problem. But I think I should handle fine once I leave New York City. There's New York's. There's Heritage Park, and there is Yankee Stadium right there. Definitely worth $1.5 billion. The house that Jeter built. Absolutely very. They actually did a good job modeling this ballpark, the photogrammetry. I'll definitely have to fly over and get some pictures with the steerman. But I want to get out of New York City, so. I guess that's. I'm gonna have to try and turn off the multiplayer, so 1 sec. And see if that does anything to help. And see if turn off the multiplayer does anything to help my performance. Because I thought I turned it off, so see if that's any changes for my multiplayer. So now we get to their final airport. We will be landing at Kilo Hotel Papa November, which is Westchester County. That's located on the town of White Plains, New York, right on the border between New York and Connecticut. So we'll be heading there, and we're prepared to land on runway 34. We'll be landing there. This will be quite a bit of a long one. A little better. Do not be worried. My computer is old. I mean, hey, I got a laptop. My main computer is a laptop, so that's how I'm managing it. I saw the picture splasher posted on my Discord. They are absolutely lovely. Very lovely pictures. I'll definitely get more pictures of stuff of my own. When I don't have to worry about OBS affecting my frames. Flying between buildings is wild. I know. That's one of the things I love about the Aerolite. Is have to fly between the buildings in an Aerolite. You get to appreciate the scale of all the buildings here. Things are only going to get better when we leave the city of New York. So currently we're in the Fordham Heights area. I don't fly here. New York nice, but looking like a bit like World War III. It's the fact it's New York City, but it's also OBS, and that's not really a good combination. I think I should have just taken the steerman for the flag. But actually, I have an idea. We don't have to land at Winchester County. Actually, I have an alternate destination. We're going to have to do a rough landing. We're going to be landing... see that waypoint on my map? Well, we're going to land here, and we're going to end the stream here. If you guys don't mind. So we're going to do an alternate landing, so we don't have to worry about the thing. Because the frames are getting really bad here. It's just that the frames are bad. I had to make an emergency landing, so I'll end the stream that way, you know? We'll be laying right next to Manhattan College, which is one of the local universities in the region. Nice job, Gazeki. LaGuardia is not a bad place to land. Gonna go for a landing because big wide runways. Yeah, the runways in LaGuardia are pretty big. Though here's the thing though, LaGuardia is actually considered by many to be one of the worst airports in the country. Dear Gazaki. Where are we going? We're going to be going to Kilo Hotel Papa in November, which is our final destination. We're going to be heading here. Okay, so I had to turn off the photogram. So I had. I know this is a bit of a long one for the Aerolite. I apologize. Now my frames are a lot better now. But there's There. I had to slow. Yeah, there's a golf cart. It's called Fenway Golf Club, which is kind of ironic. And then there's a whole bunch of golf clubs. So runway 34 should be in sight. I'm actually going to change servers for a bit to East USA. There. My performance went up quite a bit. Yes, I can. Yeah, good idea. Um, mm-hmm. There's runway 34 to our left. I think this will be our final stop. Actually, there's a purchase call. All sorts of golf courses. All these community golf courses. Yeah, tons of golf clubs. There's the airport. We're finally done. And there it is. The final. We finally got it done. Woohoo! Nice job, Zeus.